Hello crafty friends, today I want to show you how I created this fairy scene card using my LEDs from Chibitronics and stamps from Fawn. I stamped all the images using my Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I stamped the images on Nina Solar white paper. This is my favorite paper to color with my Copic markers because it is a very smooth one, and I like the color of the paper because it is like a warmer white. I'm using here my Copic markers, and for each color I'm using 3 different markers, a darker one, a middle tone and a lighter one. For some images or part of the images I'm just using 2 colors because the parts were very small. The most time consuming part was the coloring and then the fuzzy cutting because I don't own the matching dies, but for me it is totally worth it because I normally use my stamp sets like 3, 4, maximum 5 times, but this one is really one of my favorite stamp sets ever because I love the fairies because they always reminds me of Tinkerbell. Now I'm almost finished with my coloring, and then I will further cut all my images. Now all the images are done, and I cut out the windows from the houses because these are the places where the LEDs will be. I also die cut all the pieces I need for the card. It was my favorite thing, frame, and also the borders are from my favorite thing. And now I have to cut the spaces for the LEDs through all the layers. And here you can see where the LEDs have to be. I used my Chibitronics stencil so you can see it better. And this piece of paper will create my switch. It is just a regular piece of paper. I always like to use the waste that I have so I don't need to cut a new one. I'm using here my copper tape from Chibitronics. You can use the copper tape you have at home, or maybe you want to buy some cheaper one. I would totally understand, but the good thing about the Chibitronic copper tape is that in case you tear the copper tape, you can just put the copper tape back together, overlapping, and then the connection will stay. I already had some cheaper copper tape where this happened and the circuit wasn't working anymore because they couldn't get a connection again, and then my circuit wasn't working. So now I'm taping down my LEDs and the circuit is working like I wanted. And now I'm using here some foam tape to create like a border so the battery won't fall off, and I just want to make sure that the mechanism is working. I'm using here my distress inks to color the pieces for my scene. I'm using here Mode Lawn, and I guess it was Blueprint Sketch, and Tumbled Glass to create like a purplish bluish background. I really like this color combination to use with fairies and something magical because yeah, I find it magical. Behind my card panel I'm using here 1 layer of foam tape, and it's only 1 layer and the battery would need 3 layers, so this is why I like to use here my border dies, because this is how I can hide my thickness of the card. And now I already taped my third layer. I'm sorry, my camera wasn't filming at the moment. Behind the windows of my houses, I'm taping here my vellum, because the LEDs are very bright if you wouldn't tape something behind them. And yeah, I thought this vellum from Crafter's Companion would be very nice, because it is a little thicker than regular one. And now I'm just gluing my scene together. I'm using here different layers of foam tape. I want to make the images very stable, so you don't spend hours and hours in making this very nice scene card and then maybe it will be wonky or something will break just because you didn't put enough foam tape. I'm sorry, my head is on the way because I had to look where I'm gluing my pieces. I like to use dry glue because yeah, I'm really messy and I don't want to mess up the card, and yeah, I like that when you glue it down it will stay there. And for some pieces I'm using here foam tape, and because of the different layers this card looks very very special. And yeah, everybody were impressed with this card because it has so many layers, and then the LEDs were shining, and yeah, it was very happy for me to see my best friend very happy with the card, and so it was totally worth the work. Now I'm just using here some little pieces of foam tape. This was one of the most time consuming part, but this card wasn't difficult to make. You just have to make sure how you want your scene to look like, and then yeah, you have to make it good for you. You could also just glue everything down without the different layers and use 3 layers of foam tape. It would be totally okay, and I guess nobody would yeah recognize the difference. But yeah, this is how I make my cards. This is how my style is. Now I'm using here the Crafter's Companion Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen in clear. It's a clear overlay, and I used it on all the flowers, on the houses, and on the fairies' wings, because this is a magical card. So each kind of magic needs some glitter. I tried to show you how much glitter were on this card, but I think I didn't get it. Now I'm using here a stripe of vellum to stamp and then heat emboss my sentiment, because yeah, I was totally in the card making, so I totally forgot to put a sentiment down. And when this happens, I like to use this vellum trick, because you can still see the scene behind the sentiment, and you can see and read the sentiment as well, so it wouldn't distract from something. I used here my Fiskars trimmer to cut down precise my sentiment, because otherwise if I just would have cut the sentiment in a stripe, this stripe would have been very thick and then to take too much space from the card, what I didn't want it. And the other pieces I cut with the scissor. You will see it in a minute. Yeah, now you can see that the parts from the G and I guess the H are higher than the rest of the sentiment. Now I'm using here my multi-medium from Ranger to glue my sentiment down, and I tried to put the glue behind my embossing so nobody will see it. And now you can perfectly read the sentiment and still see the scene. And the last finishing touch is to create some water droplets using my Nuvo Dewdrop. And as this is dry, this looks really realistic and really pretty. So this was it for today for my card. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. I hope I could inspire you to create some interactive cards, and I wish you all a great day, and until the next time, bye.